Hi, I'm Xanderka 2009. With the Oscars just around the corner, I will be comparing two films that at least have a nomination. There is Godzilla Minus One, nominated for Best Visual Effects, and the other is The Boy and the Heron, nominated for Best Animated Feature Film. At a first glance, they seem to be very different films, but they have some parallels. Besides being produced by Japanese studios, set in Japan during and after World War II, and performing better at the American box office than most of the Hollywood-produced stuff. I am going to explore some of the parallel themes presented in both of those films. Be warned, I might drop a few spoilers. After seeing both films, I noticed the parallel themes and I will list them. 1. Death, a rather grim theme, but both films deeply explore it. They tackle the fear and fascination that we humans have with death and how we acknowledge it. 2. Loss and grief. Those do follow up with the first theme. The characters in both films experience great losses and deal with the grief that follows. 3. Hope, the third theme that both of those films grasp. It's a tricky one to explain, but I will go into each theme with more detail. I might as well start with this theme, since it's the one that is acknowledged early on in both films. In Godzilla Minus One, the fear of death is at play, in the form of the war and Godzilla. The civilians of Japan were just barely picking up the pieces after World War II when the wrath of Godzilla is unleashed upon them. The film does showcase a lot of destruction and death from Godzilla's rampage, making the theme of death a driving force for the story. The fascination with death is a theme played throughout The Boy and the Heron. The film is about a journey through the otherworldly realm occupied by the dead and the living, where the boy, Mahito, learns about the balance between life and death. Following death, the theme of loss and grief is explored through both films. The cast of Godzilla Minus One experienced grief from the loss of family, friends, and comrades from the war. Koichi often struggles with grief and survivor's guilt after losing his family to the bombings and witnessing a pre-mutated Godzilla chomp down on the men stationed on Odo Island. Mahito from The Boy and the Heron is dealing with his grief after experiencing the loss of his mother in a fire, relocating to a big house near the forest, and finding that his aunt, who is also his stepmother, has gone missing. He is later persuaded by the Heron that his mother is still alive and waiting for him in the old tower. Knowing that it's a trick of the Heron, Mahito ventures on to see for himself, only to find out that it was just a trick. This is a tricky thing to explain, but it follows the first two. After Godzilla's rampage on Tokyo, causing mass destruction and death, the nation of Japan comes together to find a hopeful solution to solve the problem. The scientists develop a plan, and the Japanese Self-Defense Force executes the plan. Koichi uses his skills as a pilot to ensure that the plan doesn't fail. After meeting both friendly and hostile beings in the other world, Mahito learns to accept his loss and decides to live with a sense of hope for his own future. Mahito returns home with his aunt, and he learns to appreciate the family he still has. The films are different, I am aware of that, yet they have those parallel themes that work at their cores. Death, loss, grief, and hope were all at play in both films. They showed to the audience that when all seems doom and gloom, there is that light at the end of the tunnel. In the case of The Boy and the Heron, a door to escape those nasty carnivorous parakeets. I also want to mention, in light of the earthquake in Japan, that I believe that the two films also showcase the resilience of the nation of Japan. My prayers go out to those who are directly devastated by the earthquake, and I hope that the nation's resilience holds strong. Thank you for watching.